It's been a minute. Doing a lot of covering Canada soccer, Canada football, but gotta represent the Afro. We should have gone Afro Cans. We'll work on the name later. Anywho, Ghana. There's not actually, before we get to Ghana, a lot of interesting stories coming out of Africa right now. As it stands right now, Africa will for the first time have all their countries will have domestic skippers, all skippers who are of the center of the country, which is good. I mean, we're not going to talk about how we got there, whether it's a federation having to fire coaches because they didn't follow their directives or tampering and whatnot. That's not the story about today. But it's great to see, there is talent in Africa, the coach and the go. Now, I hope that we can take that ability and really, not be afraid, not play cowardly walking into the game just because you're playing European teams or our teams. But again, enough on this one. Let's talk about Ghana. Released their 28 player squad for the upcoming friendlies coming to the end of September. 28 is a big squad. I mean, if they could have brought 30, do it, 30. But I think 28 is encouraging. I know with any squad you're looking at, you're always gonna have people asking people who are in, people who aren't in. There's always those questions. Let's go to the players who are in the roster and we'll talk a little bit about it. So goalies Richard Ofori, Abdul Nuruddin, Jojo Wallacott. We got our defenders, Dennis Adoy, Tariq Lamptey, Alidou Seydou, Abdul Rahman Baba, Gideon Mensah, Alexander Jiku, Mohamed Salisu, Daniel Amarte, Joseph Aidoo, and Stephen Ambrosius. Midfielders, Thomas Partey, Idrisu Baba, Elisha Owusu, Kofi Tre, Mohamed Kudus, fresh off scoring in the Champions League. We see you. Andre Ayew. Wingers, Kamaldeen Suleimana, Daniel Afriyie-Barnier, Isaku Fatawu, Osman Bukhari, who's honestly been lighting it up this year, playing well, Ransford Yeboah, Jordan Ayew, and Antoine Semenyo. And then strikers, Iñaki Williams, Felix Afena-Gyan, and Benjamin Tete. Then, where do I want to start here? First of all, actually having position groups. It's a small thing for me. I tend to appreciate things like that. But what does that tell me? It tells me a little bit about this roster that we're probably seeing a singular striker type of a setup, whether that's a 4-2-3-1, whether that's a 3-4-3, whether that's a 3-4-2-1. We are going to see an isolated striker, maybe a bit of fluidity, whether we know Iñaki is playing more as a striker and can cut in as a wing. Tete is probably your best quote-unquote 9. Yes, Iñaki is probably the better player, but in terms of pure playing as that striker, between him and other players, I think Tete is your best one. But you're gonna see a lot of new. You said those players. Other thing, it's good to see. What I find is players in their actual slotted position. Andre Ayew is a midfielder. Jordan Ayew is a winger. We don't have our center backs or full backs listed, but we can all figure out who they are. Now, there's a lot of conversations about, some players not being put in, some players who have started the season well. Yes, it's true. You're going to have that. The likes of Joseph Pansel, Andy Yadom, you have Abdul Mumin, Edmund Ado. There's a lot of good players. There's a lot of good players who didn't make it, but I think my counter to that looking at would be, the coach has seen most of these players. If not, he can definitely get familiar with them. But you need to see some of these new players and see what the level is. So if they are at that level, you're playing Brazil and Nicaragua. So you're playing one team that's going to push you, and you're playing another team where if you don't put up at least 4 goals, I have questions. So seeing the likes of how Tariq Lamptey looks, how a Stephen Ambrosius looks, how a Mohamed Salisu looks, I'm curious about this one, Ransford Yeboah, how he looks, Iñaki Williams, of course, Antoine Semenyo with more run. It's important to see those players play, and I'm intrigued to see kind of what they're able to do that. This does also tell me, like I said, formation-wise, 3 in the back, 4 in the back. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe for one of the games, Coach Otto Addo goes with a 3 in the back look, and then another game he goes 4 in the back, because I'm with Dennis Adoy, Tariq Lamptey, Gideon Mensah as your fullbacks. That does give you some flexibility to push those up as wingbacks and leaving your back 3. I know the initial line is wanting to see a Mohamed Salisu, Alexander Jiku, and a Daniel Amarte back 3. But I want to see what Stephen Ambrosius can do, how he factors into this. I think he's a solid center back and definitely can give you a little bit of depth especially if you have to move one center back out. It's good to see Idrissou Baba as well. He did move back when needed in the Nigeria matchups, but we'll see if Coach Otto does lean towards that or not. Midfield will be interesting. Midfield will be crowded. I don't think there's much you can do about that, but possibly if they go in that 4-2-3-1, if Partey is fit enough, at this point it doesn't look like he will be, but maybe by the time he gets there, he will be. Partnership in the midfield of Partey, Kudus, and then either at Tret or Andreu. If you're going to go with that 4-2-3-1, your wingers, either Antoine Semenyo, as well as, I think based off form, you have to give it to Osman Bukhari, but we'll see how the coach feels. And then up top, let's see how Iñaki Williams plays off of that. We've seen Felix in short spurts. Yes, we can continue to build him, but you have to see what Iñaki can do, whether that's you play him against a Brazil or you play him against a Nicaragua that get some good, solid chemistry going. I don't hate this. I don't hate this lineup. And again, like I said earlier in the video, worst case scenario, if some of these players aren't gelling, you at least know you have still solid players who are still playing well. I don't think the door is closed on the players who didn't make this roster as of this point. It certainly makes it more of an uphill climb. There's no doubt about it. But I do think the coach has to see these players and know how it goes. If it was the opposite, for example, if he brought in all these other players, then right at the World Cup, then you see Iñaki, you see Ransford, Yeboah, you see Stephen Ambrosius. There's a lot of questions. If you're trying to build a team, why not go there? Also, the way that the season's going with the frequency of games in different seasons, especially your top 5 leagues, there will be injuries. So you have to see some of the players while you can make a decision. And if injury goes down, at least there is decent depth behind them of players who are playing well that you can turn to and bring into the squad and understand their level and can trust them in moments. Because the roster that they use to make the World Cup is nothing like this roster here. I mean, there's definitely some familiar faces, but there's also faces who weren't there before. So I don't have a problem with it. Guys, what do you think about this roster? Do you like it? Who do you think was the biggest snub? Who are you looking forward to see play well in these upcoming friendlies? Guys, let me know in the comments below. I'm going to stop rambling now. Let me guys know. Let me know what you think.